Demystifying Startup is a series that we have planned, which we'll do on monthly basis. This is a masterclass by experts in particular areas for startups, so that they're able to learn and able to understand some of the basics concepts. And as a part of this, the first season, if you can use the Netflix terminology, in this series is going to be on business model canvas. Now, business model canvas uh, is a tool used by startups so that uh, to use the startup to map up their business model, to understand the various component of it. This is specially used by social enterprises to map out not only their models but also the impacts. Uh, and in this, we are going to, as you have seen the poster, we are going to do 5 episodes. Generally, Raj will be conducting the master classes, and he will also, we will also try and bring in some experts from outside later on. Before we start, let me also give you an overview of AICTE Foundation. AICTE Foundation is an Atal Incubation Center. We are based in IIIT Hyderabad, and we are funded by Atal Innovation Mission Niti Aayog. AICTE Foundation, we have specifically focused on social enterprises. What are social enterprises? If some of you don't know, social enterprises are for-profit businesses which also seek to use the business model to make social impact. What does this mean is that the social, because it's a for-profit business, the impact that they make will be self-sustainable. They don't have to look for funders and those kind of things. As long as the business continues, the impact continues. A good example of this would be something like, let's say if you're working in an environmental project and trying to reduce greenhouse effect by a for-profit business model, then you're making social impact also together. uh, our speaker today is going to be Raj Janagam. He is a CEO of AICT Pledge Foundation. Before this, he was CEO, he is founder, director, and CEO of Surge Impact Foundation. He has also run social businesses, including Cycle Chalao. Uh, and today, he's going to conduct this class for us. So I hand it over to you, Raj. Please take it forward.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Rinkesh. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. As you're aware, the topic today is the business model canvas, and especially with a special focus to nonprofits and social enterprises, especially. They have a common component between both those models on how a business model is run. So I'm going to share my screen. Before that, in fact, a quick show of hands would help of how many people have actually used the business model canvas before. There is an option of reactions. If you can go there and maybe give me a thumbs up if you have used the business model canvas before. We have Sai, Fahad, and Anupama. If you can quickly, if you have used it, give a thumbs up, please. Okay, so I think all of us here are new, and please feel free to use the chat box. I will also be monitoring the chat box as I'm presenting, and we will be answering any questions. You could also use the chat box to ask any expectations you specifically have from this session, or any particular question at any point of time. And I will try to bunch all the questions related to the presentation and answer them at the end of the presentation. So meanwhile, what I'm going ahead with is today that so far we have not used the business model canvas. 1 minute, I'll just forgot to switch on the video. Yes, yeah, and I'm sharing the screen also with you. 1 second. Yes, there you go. So the presentation mode. Now I hope that you can see all my slides. So for those of you who do not, and in fact, all of you have said that this is the first time that you are coming across the business model canvas. So it is actually derived from a book called Business Model Generation. written by Mr. Alexander and his team members, and it's also credited to be co-created by many different entrepreneurs, almost 500 of the entrepreneurs. So if there is one book that you will consider as your go-to book for doing business or understanding business, I would always recommend that you buy this book. We will also be happy to share the link on our recorded file, but also the book itself is available on Amazon by the same name. And it is almost like a handbook, it's almost like a guide. You will be practically working on things, so it makes it all the more exciting. It is not only just a theoretical framework that you will have to try and understand. So with this, I will quickly get into our topic. We are talking about the canvas, which is represented in the book. And this canvas has been used time and again by many people. And the canvas, as you can see, has 9 blocks of any business. We will talk about each blocks as we go along. And we will also be talking about differences on how these each blocks are connected, how to think about each blocks. Here's a quick tip. If you are doing any presentation of your startup or a business and you don't know where to start, or if you are struggling what is the best and most easiest way to present my business, we can always rely upon the business model canvas. And business model canvas, for that matter, helps you to break down your entire business, almost all of it, into a more easy to digest, easily understandable modules that you can explain to anybody, whether they are your internal employees who are being onboarded, whether they are your investors or shareholders, or whether you are trying to bring somebody on board as a partner or as a director. All of these people will always understand your complete picture of the business if you give them a walkthrough of your business idea or the business institution through these 9 building blocks. So, as I said, please feel free to stop me if there is any clarity that you wish to have. But until then, I will continue talking and delivering this for next half an hour for sure. And I will definitely would like to have your opinions, questions, and discussions afterwards as well. So this is how the canvas looks. So there are 9 blocks. Now one will think, what is the purpose of this canvas? What is the Why are there these 9 blocks? Why are there not more blocks? All of that. So it is very beautifully explained and also acknowledged time and again that these are the basic fundamental blocks of doing any business. And also that there are a couple of blocks intentionally kept away. We'll talk about those as well. And I've already explained the purpose of doing this canvas. But more than to anybody, more than to any partner or a stakeholder that you want to use this canvas, the most important reason why you should use this canvas is for yourself, is to understand your own idea, to understand the good part, the challenging part of your own idea into doing this business that you want to do. Now, in this business model, we will be talking about social enterprise business model canvas. So, what changes? While many people have taken a look at it, and there are many versions of what changes from a business to a social enterprise, we would most probably always come across one word that we all care about is impact, and that is the most important thing that defines a social enterprise being unique and different from a business enterprise or a commercial enterprise. Now, before we talk about the next steps, I would like to make it clear here that any kind of business, whether they are starting up right away, whether they're in the middle of their growth stage, or whether they are a very well established business, can be broken down into these 9 blocks. So it is important to realize that this is not only for our startups and us to ideate on the new business ideas that we're working on, but even to understand, for example, one day you want to understand how does Google work, how does the company Airtel works, how does Reliance works. This blocks will still help you in understanding those and helping you answer that questions. And for that matter, when you will also want to understand how does a social enterprise work, this will also still help you. So The whole presentation I'll divide it into three parts. One is the plain vanilla introduction of the business model canvas as per the book, and I will walk you through the different blocks. Second step is a discussion and an understanding of the insertion of impact into the business model canvas, why, what, and how to do that. And the last part is a discussion with a real life example that we can take up and understand all the canvas immediately. Meanwhile, I will also be sharing an amazing tool that is available online and has both free model and a premium model where you can use and you can design your own business model with the help and guidance of the tool. So let us start. When you look at the whole model, I would like you to, I hope my cursor is visible. I would like you to always imagine starting your journey from customer segments. This is the most important. This is the most important part. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, this is the most important part of the business model. And once we start our work from this, we will understand that we will have to quickly go towards value proposition. Now, here is where we imagine what value we are bringing. So, just a step back. First, we are talking about who are we going to work with? Who are the people who will be benefiting our business and the social enterprise that we will be working on? And second, who are the and what is the value that these people will be getting? So once you have figured these two blocks out, and trust me when I say that these are the most important blocks as of today that we see any startups which are struggling to make a good presentation or a good communication channel of explaining their business to anybody outside. Now, once you have these two, the natural question after you know what value you're creating is how do you deliver that value? How do you come to know where your customers are and how do you deliver that value? That is this piece. In this, while you're delivering the value and after you're delivering the value, what is the sort of relationships that you're having with your customer? Now, these are the fundamental, what we call as the right side of the canvas blocks. Once you're done with that, you immediately jump into, well, you have delivered the value now, you've maintained a good relationship. What is the return that you're getting? Are they paying in money? How much they're paying? What are the different kinds of revenues? All of that we discuss here. And when you're delivering value in order to remove a certain or minimize a certain social risk attached to it, what are the kind of impact that you end up making? So we'll discuss more about this impact here. But this part, I would like you all to imagine that this whole one part is complete when we are finishing with all these 5 different blocks. Now, the rest of the 4 blocks. Here you can start anywhere. Let's say we can start with our key resources. We understand what is in it, what is that we have, which if you remove from us, our business, our whole setup will crumble. So that's where you start with. What do we do on a day-to-day basis? The top 3 things in order to deliver this value that we spoke. You list down your key activities. Who are the people who enable us to help you in this key in your business? Is your key partnerships, and what does it cost you in order to do all of these things to reach to your customer? Now, this is a very simplified few minutes of conversation I'm having with you here to explain the business model canvas. But let's jump a little bit into each of the blocks. And once we are done with this, let's speak about impact. Let's speak about real life example, and let's have answers to any of the questions that you may have. The first thing, as I said, was customer segments. Customer segments, while there are many different ways to understand your customers and put them in different buckets, these are few 4 things that are mentioned in the book, as well as the 4 usual suspects that you find in any business model or any social enterprise business model. One is mass markets, where you actually target a huge market space in generally a lot of people, and you sell your products to a huge market. There are different strategies when you do that. you need to, of course, imagine then if you're selling to everybody, you will ensure that the pricing is matched to everybody. At the same time, that there is enough supply of the product or service that you're doing, and that there is enough demand at a mass market uh, for your products and services. You have your niche markets, which is immediately you trying to segment your customers into a premium sort of a zone. You understand the pain points of very few customers, and they may need a customized solution. So you focus on the niche market. I will be quickly rushing through these blocks, just FYI, just because these are simple to understand and we will have more time to discuss later. Then you have segmented approach where you have one product, but there are different segments of customer. Imagine that you make amazing pastries. You have one kind of pricing for people who can pay more, and you can customize more of that, and you can also create general pastries for everyone to consume, and that pricing will be different. So segmented, also diversified. There are many different kind of customers you will have. You will also have diversity in terms of your products themselves may be very different, so that also exists. So then you have different kind of groups that will be working with you in your business. Value proposition, usually after you have this kind of identify different kinds of customer segments, when you're designing what you're actually offering to your customers or beneficiaries, you imagine to put together a product or a service which usually has one of these things. If it doesn't, it's very difficult to be sold. So basically you're bringing something new to the table. You are selling a product or service that will improve the existing performance of a certain other product and a service that they have, and thereby cutting their time. You are also providing a more customized product or a service than they have seen before. You have made sure that you have created a product which literally gets the job done. Now, there are many examples in each of these verticals, but a lot of us, in fact, interestingly, don't even would have not known that Rolls Royce, for example, also does work with airline industry, and they run maintenance and all of the jet engines, etc. So they just get the job done. Now, irrespective of whether they are a premium brand, customer focusing or not, many airlines engage with them because they just get the job done of what they promise. There is a design element. A lot of times you are offering similar kind of similar kind of products, but your value itself is that you're making better design than before. We have definitely seen this work out with how the way the computers are being used, from Microsoft Windows to MacBook and Mac OS. We also have in India one huge business, which is that of brand and status. A lot of the business is sold because it improves the status and branding of that person, because you would want to wear a watch that will be symbol of a brand. You would want to wear you would want to ride a better scooter. You would want to drive a better car because it gives you a certain status. Now, all of this and more, one second. Now, all of this and more happens when you are understanding your customers. As we discussed, the immediate point is that you understand your customers better. Now, the pricing, of course, this is very easy to understand. You are simply getting the product to the market at a cheaper rate. Now, that itself helps a lot. Cost reduction, accessibility, convenience, and usability are few other ways to look at what you are giving. I will leave that out for the details later, but all of these things are mostly understandable, where if you want to yourself act as a customer, you would understand that these are the values you want out of a customer. The best, another tip here, the best way to imagine what value you should create is putting yourself as a customer. The best products are the ones that the customer can buy themselves, or the owner or the founder can buy it for his or her own self. So this is the kind of value propositions that you keep. Then coming to channels, very quickly I'll run through this. There is direct and indirect. Of course, when you're directly selling through your own website or a store, or a technology. If you're indirectly, you're partnering with somebody, there are wholesalers and distributors. There is an indirect way of selling your products or reaching out to your customers. But remember, any of this actually goes through a process. Firstly, where will the customer come to know about you? In fact, a lot of people confuse the channel to marketing. Marketing is only one part of the channels. So a big important step is about understanding where the awareness of the customers about your business, whether they will evaluate you against somebody, right? That is a competitor, etc. How will they purchase the service? How will you deliver the service? How will you also maintain the relationship for after sales? These are few examples, and a lot of difference is made based on the um, one second. Yeah, based on the important aspects of cost of these different things. All these things are expensive, right? You may want to set up a center for healthcare in a very far off place, and you will want to charge a little bit of money for people visiting that healthcare center. Now, in that case, your cost of delivery of this service increases naturally because of the distance as well. So you analyze all these different aspects of these channels and then take a call on which is the best way for you to do it, for you to deliver your value. Relationships, once you're done with the customer, understanding the value that you're offering and how you're going to deliver it, while you're offering, what is the kind of experience that the customers are going through when they realize your product. Now, the most important is if they're personally are the first point of contact, they're purchasing it directly, or if there is a self service that they're purchasing it directly, but you are not even involved in any of that. Kiosks and other models where you don't need to be involved as well. Then you have the co-creation model, and this we will have to talk a little bit more, because in social enterprise as well, you always remind yourself that you are co-creating the value. So when you are helping a beneficiary in a social impact, you will always be keeping in mind that the beneficiary is also striving to improve his or herself. If that is not happening, then this is also not happening. So then it is very difficult to change behaviors, and you get into all of that. So, in the customer relationship or the beneficiary relationship for a social enterprise, you will always remember that customers or the beneficiaries are part of the journey of your business model. Now, this is about the customer relationships. As I said, on the right side of the canvas, the last part is the revenue streams. Now, asset sale is nothing but you are physically actually selling the item, the product to somebody, and that's the widely used idea of sales or a product. Then there is a usage fee. Somebody is using it and giving it back, right? They may be, sorry, not giving it back. They are using it for a certain extent, and after that, the product or the service expires. There is a subscription fee where they pay on a frequent basis. There is renting of the asset instead of selling the asset. And of course, there is licensing as well. So there are these different kinds of revenue streams. But here again, another pro tip on whether it is a social enterprise or not. Remember, if the client, if you're trying to sell something, if the beneficiary comes from a bottom of the pyramid economic background, then you are definitely trying to you're going to strive to make the product very affordable so that they can actually buy it. But what happens in the commercial sense, and we need to understand this, is when a commercial product is being sold, what they do is they will basically price their products as per the purchasing power of their potential customers. So they will actually start by thinking, who are the people who will buy my product? What is the maximum amount that they will be able to pay? And that is where they start. So the pricing hence is very different in both these kind of scenarios. Now we come to the left part of the canvas where we are talking about the key resources. Now, what is the key resource that we have where we would be selling using manufacturing or creating of these services based on our strength. What is our core strength? Why is it difficult for someone else to copy our business, because they may not have these key resources? Now, this is, of course, physically you have infrastructure in place, you have a building, a block, or a center, then your key resources are maintained to be visible and you can do a lot of different businesses there. It could be your intellectual property as well. You have figured out, one second.
Yeah. So you have figured out a way to basically use the intellect that you can co-create or you can create in the form of a theory, in the form of a formula, in the form of an invention that you're doing, and you're of course protecting that, and that itself becomes your key resource in your entire business model. You have, of course, the human resource. You have large enough manpower or access to manpower, and hence you are able to do this business. That becomes your key resource. And sometimes simply for a lot of startups who don't realize it, uh, somebody else comes up one day and does better than what they're doing because they simply have a larger financial resource with them. That itself needs to be considered as one of the key resources for any business model. Talking about key activities very quickly, there is, of course, that you produce either a product or a service. So in that sense, how are you most cost effective? How are you maintaining the quality? All of that is important. You're doing problem solving. So basically customers are coming to you with certain problems and there may be one step or a 10 different step process and you're helping them solve that problem. Then there is platform network. Then you are, rather than uh, doing anything by yourself, you are actually becoming a network for many different products to come together and make a sale on your own website or a platform. Now, this one second. Now, this kind of an approach where you are rather looking at a platform than being into solving a particular problem by yourself is something we have seen most popular recently. Thanks to Amazon and Flipkart of the world, we know that everybody wants to create a platform for other products and services to come and play. Now, once we understand that these are the resources we have, these are the activities we need, it's very important. This is sometimes for social enterprises, especially, is highly neglected area, but is that of key partnerships. You need partnerships, not just because you can't do certain things, but also because you want to optimize what you already have through partners who are good at doing what they are good at doing. So that partnership are very important. They not only immediately scale your business model, but also help you reduce the risk that that is associated with the model, and also a lot of uncertainty that happens in the course of a normal business. Now, this is also important that you can't, as they say, you can't play God in business. You can't develop all the resources by yourself, and hence you will want to partner with somebody at a cost, of course, who will help you put together specific resources. Cost structure. Now, this is the last block on the left-hand side of the canvas that we see, which is basically where you understand different costs involved in delivering the value to the customer segments. So a lot of businesses are cost driven. They are definitely they are more profitable as long as they can keep their costs down, because what they're offering could be similar to many competitors. While a lot of people are value driven, these are like the premium businesses where they are mostly dependent on the niche set of customers or certain things, but they are driven by the value that customers associate with their business. Then, of course, the nature of the balance sheets or the income expense statements are always going to be landing on a certain structure in accounting where we understand them as fixed costs, variable costs, and then there is economies of scale where the same product you're selling to more people. So you sort of put that here as well. And then there is economies of scope. So basically, you have one distribution channel, but you will end up actually selling two different kinds of products. So that's also possible. So this is basically the entire business model in a nutshell. Now, one thing very important here is there is this theory that our right brain is more tuned to emotions and our left brain is more tuned to logic. So hence they justify the kind of blocks are interrelated to each other. As you can see, most of the right side of the blocks, they say, are driven through emotions and strong emotional understanding of the people. And the other side is a strong logical understanding of your business model itself. So that is why the blocks are necessarily placed in the way they are placed. Now, coming to the most important thing, and also most important thing from our today's session point of view, is the impact. We have discussed about co-creation of impact before, and what we basically look at is understanding the impact model. Now here, a very quick heads up about, before we start to understand our impact, we need to know our theory of change. How are we making a change in the society? Now, it's also called logical framework analysis. And to those of you who are interested, I'll be happy to share a lot more notes. And it's sort of a session in itself in understanding theory of change. But a lot of people get it wrong when they don't think about it enough. For example, you must have seen a lot of social enterprises or CSR projects actually saying that they have built a lot of toilets around certain villages. And the impact is that we have built 10,000 toilets. Now, that statement is wrong. The theory of change suggests that that's not the impact. So, when you put your input in terms of funds or manpower or the equipment and the raw material, that's your input. The output is the actual physical block of toilet. Now, the outcome is that people actually start using it and hence are more healthier, and there is less public issues around that in the shorter term. The impact is what happens much after that. Overall, the number of healthy people increase. There is a low expenditure of that village or community on healthcare, and in general, that leads to better welfare and growth of that particular village. Now, this is in a very compressed manner what a theory of change is, but this is also where you realize whether the impact you want to make through your business model can be fitting here and that you can mention it here. Now, also, you need to realize that as a social enterprise, you will never ever have just one customer. You will always be, of course, working for the beneficiaries. But remember, the people who are actually going to ask you for accountability are not even beneficiaries. They are the donors. So in a certain way, your donors are also the most important customers, as important as your beneficiaries as well. So what is the value they are getting by giving you money or giving you investments in the forms of funds or in kind? You also, because you're dealing with social issues, a lot of times your stakeholders are government itself. So the value you are creating, the impact you are creating is going to help the local government also by having a better image, and also perhaps also tangible support that you can provide. There is, of course, to the environment as a stakeholder itself. A lot of our businesses reduce consumption, improve the circular economy, and also lower the pollution levels in all aspects. So nature itself becomes part of our stakeholders, and that is a return as well. Again, just a tip on this slide that to assess impact also, there are many different frameworks one can look at online, but I personally highly suggest the SROI model, which is social returns on investment model, basically, which means that you attach a rupee value, you discover a rupee value and attach a rupee value to all the impact that you are making, and you communicate that as your social returns on the investment that you got. just simply like anybody would declare the returns on investment in a commercial setup. Now, these are the 9 different blocks, and I'll be happy if any of you in the chat box would love to put what is the one block that we are missing here. I'll give you some time. One important part of the business that's usually not there in the canvas, but that one can think of. And a couple of you maybe even running their own startups. So I'd ask you to think about it and put it in the chat while I'll continue to finish up my presentation with the last 2 slides. How you use this canvas is the best way is first of all not to just think about it using once. You will have to use it over a period of time, but get a diverse set of people. It could be, if you're a small startup, even your friends and people who ask you tough questions as well. Get a diverse set of people who think differently, who will wear the popular Edward de Bono's all 6 different thinking hats, and hence will be providing diverse views on the canvas. Use a tool called Canvanizer. I'll be showing that shortly, and I'll share that link also with you, where you have, they've simplified. You can literally do an online Canvanizer now in this pandemic times by remotely working with each other as well. But fortunately, if you all happen to be closer, living together, and your offices have resumed, you could also simply sketch the canvas, or you can use post-its. There are cases where people have used more than 1,000 post-its in a single session and have come out with flying colors on usage of business model canvas. Next steps. 1 second. Yeah. Next steps is also doing a business model canvas of our competitor. This helps so much and also brings you so much more clarity that you'll be surprised that, okay, your competitor is doing this and you have never thought about that. So I always suggest, don't just make business model canvas for yourself, make it for your competitor as well. Find the right team to execute different blocks of your business. In fact, this was the missing block of the team itself. So try to imagine that if you had 9 people to be placed in charge of different parts of the business, who would those 9 people be handling all these different verticals? Now, as you go along, of course, in the first draft of the business model that you will make, you will be simply putting down the different kinds of generic names or terms as per your industry on and relevant to the different blocks of the business model. But the second step that is very important is to actually put names, and even if there are figures associated with it. So for example, let's say we have a company XYZ offering us a service, and where they could be rather a partner because they'd be offering a huge chunk of our service will be going through them, and hence you will be basically putting their name up against many other choices that you will have, which will help you take the next step. Of course, next step is don't stop. So business model is not something that you will do one time and forget about it. Every week, every month, it would give you a new perspective, and simply post it wherever you sit, but also try to spend a couple of hours every few months at least to just go through it, discuss with somebody else, get some other view on the different blocks, and you will be very happy that the business model is actually driving change in the entire scaling of your business. That's the quick presentation on the business model canvas. I did wanted to show you Canvanizer. So if you allow, bear me for a minute, I'll quickly show you the Canvanizer tool where you can use the business model canvas. As you can see, this is the canvanizer.com. You can go there and you can find, now they have two different versions of the Canvanizer. This is the classical version of the Canvanizer. I'll just copy paste the URL into the chat box. Now, once you use the Canvanizer, it's a very simple step to log in. It's largely a free tool for you to use for personal reasons. Now, we have already discussed the canvas. So the simplest way to use is you can click on this insert button. You can imagine this to be a post-it. You can title what you would like and put in a comment here. And that goes as a note when you save it. You can manage different colors, and the entire canvas keeps expanding with the more post-its that you will add. But once you add all these post-its, you will have a comprehensive view of the different things. Their version 2 here actually also gives you guiding steps. You can use this plus button. When you hover on that, you will have steps to quickly recall what you are doing in that block as well. So again, you can simply double click, write a model, write your post-it and post it here. So this is Canvanizer. We use this all the time for doing a lot of this model canvas work ourselves. But of course, nothing stops you from going the plain old methods of drawing this out on a whiteboard or printing this up and using post-its or sketches to build your own business model. So here I'd like to stop for a few minutes, and it's 4:50 already. Take a quick check on any questions, or if there is any business idea that you would want to discuss, we can quickly have a discussion around business model canvas on that particular business idea also. Sure, thank you. So I hope this was useful. As I said, when you start putting in, there is a feedback poll if you can quickly take it. If you start putting in your ideas, that's just the step one. As I said, for example, you're thinking about a key partner. The business model canvas will only end when you actually have the full name and contact details of the partners that you will work with. So as part of this, again, in the continuation, if any of you would like to have a one-on-one session after you make an initial canvas on the Canvanizer, please reach out to us. I'm happy to spend some time with you on one-on-one and look at your business model canvas and help you out if possible. So that's it from my side. And again, thank you so much for attending. Thank you, Rinkesh, for organizing. I guess we can stop here.
Yeah, thank you, Raj, for this wonderful session, and thank you all the participants. Just a housekeeping note: we are going to do four series on this business model canvas. The next one will be next month. We'll post it on our social media, the dates and the RSVP forms. So please attend and please share it among you. Thank you all for attending.